All right, call the meeting to order. Roll call.
You.
Oh, what?
That's you, Karen.
Yancy? Here. Chris?
Here.
Otis? Here. And
Sally.
Sally?
Here.
And Richard is here.
All right, we have a quorum. Do we have any changes to the agenda for today's meeting? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any amendments to the minutes from the last meeting? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any public comments on matters that are not appearing on the consent calendar or public hearing items? Hearing none, we'll move on. There's nothing on the consent calendar, so let's move to the public hearings. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing for application from Karen and Mark Severson for variances from the 10-foot side yard setback requirement and 35% maximum lot coverage on property located at 109 Cornelius Road?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Do we have any comments? Discussion?
I just thought that he's getting a little close to the, I'm not sure if he's,
Yeah, there was a comment in our packet concerning the setback and the concerns of being closer than 5 feet to the side yard,
Yes, from Pat Weaver.
which I think is what we approved before,
right,
was
5 feet back.
5 feet back
Yeah.
and limiting to 35%. And I think there were concerns if we went over that, that were voiced.
Yeah, when we did it before, I remember we went out there and looked at it and thought it'd better go back a little bit.
Yeah, I looked at it too.
I'm not sure how that works though, when you look at the drawing here. It looks like the addition is on this end and the property line is clear down here, so.
Well, I think they want to go on the side of that existing pole barn over to the property line, on that whole side as well.
That's a 20-foot area. Make it wider?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that's an addition, for, at least from what I'm reading here,
Yeah.
to the addition on the end of that pole
Yep.
barn.
But photos show that pole barn coming with that addition already constructed.
That's already constructed? Okay.
On page 13 of
Yeah,
the packet.
yeah, I see that.
I think this is back in front of us because they never got around to doing the side part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the adjacent neighbor doesn't have any objections if it's still holding true to the same request.
If it stays to the 5 feet back from the property line, that way it's not shedding snow across the property line and onto the fence.
Yep.
And then the roof clips.
Yeah, and roof clips as well. Which sounds pretty reasonable.
I think so.
Although the variance request isn't specifically saying that they're going to have that, and they're asking you all the way to the
They're asking
edge.
all the way over the property line, that's,
So
Yeah.
if we go to approve this, we're going to want to include
yeah.
some restrictions to what we're approving.
Right.
Now, I don't know, did we talk about snow stops or anything like that last time?
The last time, yeah, there were snow stops listed as one of the conditions. It's in the letter from the borough on page 11. Snow clip shall be installed on the roof line of the structure, and then there was a limitation to keep it shall not exceed 35%, and the roof line shall be a minimum of 5 feet from the property line.
And Mr. Severson's not present.
No.
So he just resubmitted the same thing that he had in 2015, what he had requested in 2015. So is now, is he just asking for the same variances he had before, as was granted?
If I understand it, he's asking to go all the way to the property line instead of stay back 5 feet like he was,
Well, he says as close to.
yeah.
As close to, it looked like he just refiled the same one that he, I mean, the first time it looks like he asked for this, to go as close to the property line.
And that, you established it would be 5 feet, right?
As soon as I can, I'll answer.
Liz?
Sorry.
They did resubmit the same application, but then they added also the 35%,
They want to exceed the 35%.
exceed the 35%, yeah. Because initially they asked to build to the property line. If they did that, that would have exceeded the 35%. The first time the commission considered this, that wasn't part of the application, and we didn't notice a variance for that maximum lot coverage, so you weren't able to consider that as part of the application.
Okay.
Oh, I think I just muted myself, sorry. Actually.
If it were, do you have the numbers, if it were held back 5 feet from the property line, what the coverage would be? Or do
So
we
I think
work that
it's
out?
in the, if we held it back to 5 feet,
Yeah,
so I'd have to do the math if you want to give me a minute.
I can grab out my...
39 feet is,
So
or
for
39% is pretty close to 35%.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with the exceeding the 35% thing. I do have a problem with exceeding that 5 feet from the property line.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to what the numbers would be, though. So that's 65. And we're 30 by...
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
you're going to continue discussing, you should probably make a motion before you discuss,
Okay,
since you don't have a motion to approve or
okay.
on this.
I move we accept this variance to Mark Severson's warehouse.
With any conditions, or...
Well, once we accept it.
Yeah, we can
Right.
put more conditions on, but...
Yeah.
I second.
Okay.
I'd like to see it stay 5 foot back from the property line, and we won't worry about the additional 4%.
Yeah, it'd be less than 4% if we could stay back 5
Yeah.
feet from the property
Might not
line.
be
So,
able to
yeah,
exceed it.
yeah. I was trying to figure out about where we are on that. A total of 5,100 feet. If we stay back 5 feet, and what's the lot's 100 by 150?
The maximum allowed is 5250.
Yeah, and he'd be at 51, he'd be at
Under.
5,100,
So he's under.
so. Yeah, so he'd be under if he stayed back the 5 feet. I don't see it as a problem at all. We have a motion or we have an amendment to the motion to stay back the 5 feet and require the snow clips.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you need to put in findings because the recommendation was to deny and you don't have findings supporting your recommendation, your decision.
I think that's
As I say, do we have findings on here? Do we have to?
set page 7.
Yeah.
Actually, it's page 8 is what you're...
Do you have any suggestions on findings? Fellow commissioners? On number 3, I would say that it's, the adjacent property is also somewhat commercial in nature,
Yeah.
and that's not going to really create a problem for them.
And
as long
And
as
it's
it
5
stays
feet
back to
from the
5
line,
feet.
too.
Pat says that it will not cause damage or hardship to her property if it's
Yeah,
5 feet.
if it stays 5 feet.
So,
The first two are going to be more difficult to find a rationale.
Kind of already written that way here, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not asking for a variance on the lot size, it's just the setback, basically. So you
Right.
utilize 5 feet of that setback, and since it doesn't have any impact on the, or in the neighbor, or the neighbor doesn't see an impact on it,
Plus, you've already established the 5 foot is okay with the neighbor because they're at 5 feet.
yeah,
So why would you deny the adjacent property
Yeah.
anything less?
yeah. The only thing is, if they go closer than 5 feet to the property line, then it triggers issues with fire code. So I think sticking to the 5 feet is also a good choice there. Most of the physical circumstances as to why adding that building addition on there makes sense is the fact that of where the building is already positioned on the property.
Is it going to remain open, like in the photo?
I think so, but I don't know.
So the only thing we're worried about is the
I
snow
don't think it's
falling off?
specified. Were the findings of fact available from the permit from 2015?
I didn't bring them.
What?
I don't have them with me.
You don't have that with you? Because basically what we'd be approving would be the same thing that was approved
No,
then.
it's not in there. They have that already. They have all that.
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
The alternative is we could table this until next meeting.
I would continue it till the next meeting rather than table. So, unless somebody's got a better suggestion.
I'd like to clear it up right now if we can, but
Yeah. We just need findings of fact then, as to why we are approving this. So, those 3 items on page 8 that need to be addressed.
Number 3 is pretty much easy. It's the number 1 and 2.
Yeah.
yeah. It says right here, there aren't any physical circumstances, but
Yeah.
do we have to do all 3 of them?
Yes.
Well, we really aren't doing anything with the staying away from the fence. We're not increasing the,
We're supposed to be, we're not doing anything with the increasing the coverage, we're just dealing with the 10-foot setback that's
Right.
supposed to be because it's residential. And it's not zone commercial or industrial.
and I'm not sure how much overhang there is, but we're down, it's almost 10 feet, the wall of the, that's there is about 10 feet away anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't, but if we go closer than 5 feet to the property line, it's going to bring into issues of fire code,
Yeah.
as well as, issues of snow shedding and issues for the neighbors. So I can't see approving anything that's closer than 5 feet to the property line. So,
And if it was 10 feet, he doesn't need a variance at all.
And
I
there's,
think in his drawing he has here, he says it's 20 feet is what he's approximately hoping to cover. So,
He probably needs 15 of that just to have it wide enough to park whatever he needs to
Yeah.
park under there.
right. It doesn't look like there's a lot of room down that side in the picture, but it's kind of hard from the angle that picture's taken to see. It's been a while since I looked at it because I didn't go out there this time.
in number 2, there's no difficulties, everything's working fine with the 5-foot setback.
Did the neighbor receive a variance to build within 5 feet of the property line and put his fence on the property line?
I do not know that information. It's Liz, can you answer that?
You don't need a variance to put the fence. I don't think there's a variance for that warehouse, but I'm not sure if it was done when it was constructed, whether it was post or pre-zoning, so I don't know.
It's been there a long time. And number 3 is kind of mute because we're,
It's easy.
that's what the area look like?
Yeah, it doesn't really create hardship because the neighbor's pretty much using that as industrial or commercial. I mean, strict application of the title would result in particular difficulties only because of the fact that there's the buildings where they're situated on the property. They could continue, maybe build more forward.
You kind of need some parking place.
Yeah, but you need some parking place and such, so.
I don't really see how we can really take care of this today without denying it. Because I don't see us coming up with things for number 1 and number 2 that,
Yeah,
I think it's more of the property owner that should be responsible of telling us those.
As it was requested to go to the property line, I can't see approving it.
But rather than outright denying it, I'd rather postpone it to the next meeting. And give the property owner a chance to defend why we should approve it.
Do we have a motion to continue it?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And are we requesting a copy of the 2015?
Facts.
Yeah. Do we have the finding, can we get the 2015 findings of fact before the next
Yeah,
meeting?
I'll look for those for you.
Did you make the motion in second?
Just now.
I second.
I,
Richard?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. To a application from Gladys and Raymond Olson for a change in zoning of property located at 1320 North Nordic Drive from open space to single-family residential. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, you don't need a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay.
So just go ahead and open the public hearing yourself, and then after people
Okay.
have a chance to speak, then take a motion to
Okay,
be able to discuss it.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
We have anybody here to comment on the public hearing? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
We approve this variance.
I second.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
discussion.
it's not a variance, it's a rezone.
It's a rezone,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
we would be referring it to the Borough Assembly. Do we have a motion to, well, to refer it to the Borough Assembly, is what I should have phrased it as.
I don't think there's any reason to not approve this, though.
I had one question. Liz, maybe you can answer this. Is there a drainage or anything that goes down through those properties?
Yes.
There is, okay. So would there be some issues making sure that if it was developed, that they would stay back from the drainage, but that would be approved through you guys?
It depends, it would be through the building permit process and looking at public works, but we don't necessarily have something across the board on the books about
Yeah,
doing that.
I was
Yeah.
just concerned that, if there's, the main reason that was why that was set as open space was because there was a drainage or something down through there.
I can't tell you why it was set aside as open
Okay.
space. It should never be set aside as open space since it's private property, so
Yeah.
I don't really know why.
Yeah, okay, I was just curious. So. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have a scheduling of a public hearing for, from John Murgis for a special permit for construction of a boat launch at Scow Bay. We have a motion to schedule a public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason that this is on your agenda is I hope you all looked at the recommendation from the borough attorney. I'll just tell you, I haven't cashed Mr. Murgis's check yet. There's no guidance in ordinance about whether or when there should be a special use permit versus a lease. This is going to be a recommendation from you to the Borough Assembly. So if you want to schedule it and go forward, I'll go ahead and do the notices and we'll have the hearing at the next meeting. Or if you have any reservations about using the special use permit process based on the attorney's recommendations, then I would suggest that you sort of check in with the Borough Assembly for guidance on whether this is the route they want to take, since there really isn't any guidance in the ordinance. But I sort of lay that before you as different options to,
Okay.
and you can choose how you want to proceed.
What are you guys' thoughts?
So we're talking about leasing it or just a permit to go ahead and do it?
Just temporary, yeah.
Well, once it's built, it's going to be built. And then,
He's calling it temporary. I think it's his involvement would be temporary.
yes, to get it built, and then
Yeah.
after that,
He kind of folded into the master plan out there. Is that the plan, Liz?
I'm not sure.
He would build
I
it
think
for now?
there's a plan to, he would remove the fill himself. That's the last,
I know he's asked in one space for reimbursement of the fill,
yeah,
potentially.
potentially. I'm not sure that, whether that's feasible depending on the funding mechanism. You know, generally, what's done before you get a grant is done, and you don't get to retro pay that. Yeah, so I'm not sure if, it just depends on the funding mechanism, whether that's truly an option or not.
it seemed that where he's suggesting, or he's wanting to build this, that's going to be part of that new breakwater, isn't it? No?
I don't think so. The breakwater is adjacent to it, but that's actually the location of where the proposed full ramp would be, adjacent to that breakwater. So eventually, it would be, you know, that would be a fill area in the longer term, whether...
There'd be a need for him to remove it if that's going to be a fill area.
Right.
If he
I think
uses-
that's his, that was my understanding, that's his preference, that he would want to either remove it or be reimbursed for it. But I'm not sure if that's,
That's a
No,
lot of
that's what it's-
digging.
That's what it says in the details, and
yeah.
but it also says this would not hold the borough to it, basically. Basically says that'd be nice if it happened, but not counting on it.
Well, then it just goes on to say that it would, or it could include removing the rock installed for construction. So I don't think it's meant to be left there unless we paid for it separately, I think.
Well, he wouldn't pay to take it out, I don't think, unless he had to.
That's what, I think the two options are, we pay Mr. Murgis for it, or he comes in and removes it himself and keeps the rock. I don't think the option that he's envisioning is that he just leaves it there for us to use and continue filling around it. At least that's how I read it.
Not how I read it.
But then the next sentence does say, this request by Island Venture implies no requirement by the borough to agree to this request, basically, so.
Notary's requirement of the special use permit to move forward.
So
Yeah.
I mean, the borough could, or we could come back with saying, you can build it, but
You have to leave the
Don't
rock.
expect anything back.
Yeah, I'm not sure, that's not usually what we have in a special use permit, but it could be amended if we got with the attorney to do it.
That section was added since he was here talking with us. I don't remember him discussing that at all when he was here.
Oh, the ramp?
No, taking the rock back.
Oh, yeah.
And his public comments from the last meeting.
So he's saying if he, either wants to be reimbursed or be able to remove the rock, but not necessarily saying he is going to remove the rock, is the way I'm reading this. That's just trying to clarify. Is that what you're saying, Liz? The way you read it? I'm curious if I'm reading it correctly.
Let me read it again.
Yeah.
That's what I get from it, is
Yeah, I think-
he's asking to be either reimbursed or get it. But if they can't agree on that, he would just like to go forward anyway. If
not
that's
a
the
deal-
stepping point,
deal
he'd still like
killer.
to go forward.
Yeah.
It's almost like he thought of it after he left here, after he gave us our spiel. And then, oh, but I could get money for that rock. Or maybe not.
Would this change the grand plan that's already made by adding this, interfere with it at all? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
No, it's nothing to do with, and the attorney's concerns are nothing to do with the overall development plan. The attorney's concern is related to setting a precedent for how we use public lands. Generally, tide lands are leased lands, like where Piston Rudder is, where Weekon Enterprises, those are all leased tide lands for commercial purposes. Generally, special use permits have been interpreted to be just in a right-of-way for someone to have a private driveway or for utilities. That's how we've used special use permits. So if you change the way you've always done it before without having something in ordinance that gives you the authority to make that change, then the attorney always comes back and says, well, that's different than how it's been done in the past. You don't really have guidance in your ordinance. So she's saying you should do it the way you always do it, which is tie lands and commercial operations or leases. And what I'm saying to you guys is, I don't have any guidance to give you because there's nothing in the ordinance.
I would
So you could either go forward or you could try and get some guidance.
I would suggest we kick this up to the Borough Assembly and let the Borough Assembly make a clarification as to whether or not they would like to see this in the code to allow this type of special use permit or not. And then we have something that is in the code that says, yeah, we can do this, or no, we can't do this. What do you guys think?
That would-
agree.
But I tend to agree with that, but at the same time, that would definitely slow this process down.
Yeah,
Because the assembly would have to create something, and it'd have to be 3 readings for it to get enacted. And
I don't know that the assembly would have to create something. I think the ordinance is there. It's a question of whether you want to interpret it differently than it's been interpreted in the past. Do you know what
and
I
I
mean?
think, that's something we do need to ask for clarification from the Borough Assembly, because that's more in how the code, is being interpreted, and it's, I don't think it's something that we should be trying to,
When we're asking, do we somehow tell them that we're in favor of the proposal? Or do we just leave it neutral?
yeah, I'd like to see this happen, but
I'd like to show that we
yeah.
approve it.
I'm in
Good
favor
idea.
of seeing the, something done down there, but if the borough comes back and says, no, we don't want to see this done this way, we'd rather see it done through a lease, then that gives us clarification, we can go back and say, yeah, but it needs to be done through a lease, so.
and lease doesn't feel like the proper mechanism for this either, because he's intending for this to be
Open.
total open to the public. So
At least that
a
change.
lease kind of gives you exclusive right to it for a period of time. And that's not what he's asking.
Yeah,
And he's not charging anybody to use it, so he's not
He just
making money.
Doesn't want jet boats there, and that's fine.
Yeah. I would entertain a motion on this to ask for clarification from the Borough Assembly.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Find out where I was.
Kind of feels like we keep deferring on this, but
We have an application from Dennis and Kelly Jones for a minor subdivision located at 587 Minkoff Highway. Do you have any public comments on this application? Do we have a motion to approve?
I so move.
I defer. Second?
Discussion. My question that I had about it, just, Liz, how would this fit in with the new rural residential zoning code that we are discussing? I'm just curious, as far as minimum lot size goes.
Well, it's not rural residential, it's industrial.
Okay, it's industrial?
Yeah,
Okay.
it would fit just fine.
It would fit just fine. Sorry,
even better.
yeah, that's even better. I was just curious as long as we're not creating something that's outside kind of the direction we're going, so.
But you're right, if it was rural residential, we'd be looking for, even under current code, we'd be looking for 1 acre minimum lot
Yeah,
size
that's what I
under
was-
current code, yeah.
Thought-
No, actually, for a second, I thought you were right.
Rural,
Yeah,
1 acre lots.
right.
So,
No, actually,
Yeah.
was with you there for a second, I'm like, oh, yeah.
yeah, but I was just, okay. That was my only concern. I mean,
Call for the question?
is there any other discussion?
No. Pretty clear to me.
Yep.
Looks like a good plan.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Review of a conditional use permit issued to Greg Townsend at 1319 Joa Street for purposes of a home occupation. Do you need to make a motion before we have discussion on this, Liz, or just have discussion?
Oh, I would make a motion, yeah.
Okay. motion to approve the continued use of this conditional use permit.
Didn't he quit?
So moved for the sake of
Yeah,
discussion.
for discussion, okay.
Second.
This is just coming up because it was planned on
Yeah.
that he would still be in business.
Yeah.
right?
Moved.
But he's-
Second.
He's not around anymore, so.
I don't think so. I think somebody else occupies that property.
Okay, well, do we have expiration in this one? Liz?
One of the conditions of approval was,
Under review.
That-
Review.
Undergo review, but do did we have the permit would expire with the sale or?
You sell or transfer the
if
property.
you sell or transfer, yeah. It's
Letter.
one of the conditions.
And he no longer resides there?
No longer resides there, is my understanding.
Where
So
is it?
shouldn't this permit have been
In
expired?
business.
Get a house and develop.
Well, I just checked when
Yeah, I
it came
know,
back up.
I was
so-
curious.
But I can't myself
Yeah,
expire them.
yeah,
So it has to
Okay.
be you guys, not me.
we have to physically expire them? They don't just automatically expire if they sell the property?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I move that we cancel
In fact, I have more
this.
information about that after we're done.
Okay.
Because it does say in our thing that it does. And it says.
It's a condition, so,
Yeah.
but just because they violate a condition doesn't mean that it automatically goes.
Okay.
Actually,
I thought it would automatically expire.
the commission has the authority to revoke if a condition is violated, but,
I move
Okay.
that we revoke this permit.
well, you already have a,
Yeah,
Motion that we have to.
okay. So do we want to amend the motion that's on the table to revoke this permit?
actually, I think your motion is to continue it, that you have on the table right now.
So we need to
Yeah.
vote it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we just deny it, then it's done.
So all in favor? Nay.
No.
Okay.
You might want to, actually,
Voice
yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
roll call.
Roll
There you
call.
go, that might help them.
Okay, Otis,
Aye. Yes, I guess, or whatever.
Yancy,
No.
We're denying, so.
Denying, okay.
We're denying.
Well, I
That
agree
would
with
be
whatever
no.
we're trying to do.
so that's a nay.
Nay.
Nay, then,
Nay.
yes.
Okay. Chris,
Nay.
Sally,
Nay.
Richard,
Nay.
All right. Moving on to non-agenda items. Any commissioner comments?
I kind of let Danny Bird have a copy of our proposed planning or zoning code. I think he constructs a lot of places around town, and I think he can provide some really valuable input on it. He understands that it's not open to public comment yet. I think he will be able to provide a lot of valuable input.
Along those lines, I was going to ask Liz, when will the code be available?
Probably right after this meeting, so this week I'll have it
Okay.
on the website.
Excellent.
And then for your next meeting, I'll have clean copies for us to start working from that are slightly different than what you got last time. We did find building height ordinance that I think addresses your concerns about the different roof types and has different ways of measuring depending on the type of roof. So if you have a really steep pitched roof, you're measuring from the tip for the top, the highest point
Yeah.
versus, the average height.
Okay.
Has pictures, so I think we can make it work, and the rest of it's really similar to the way we do it now. So it just has that additional part about certain pitches and certain roof types are going to be measured a little bit different than what we do now. So I think that will work. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was, and I need to do a little bit more research, was on home occupation. So I was filing some stuff away, and I found this attorney opinion from quite a number of years ago talking about conditional use permits and how conditional use permits run with the land, and that you're not supposed to tie conditional use permits to the owner of a property, because really it goes with the property regardless of who the owner is. So knowing your interest in having the home occupation either expire or be tied to that particular owner, the alternative, there's kind of two paths to take. The one we've done, which is a conditional use permit, or the other option is to make home occupation an accessory use. So if you have a house, one of your accessory uses that you can do is a home occupation, and then lay out the standards for home occupation, you know, how we've done on, like, for bed and breakfast and all those other things. The thing with that is that's going to limit the commission's discretion. So the only thing you'd be able to do would be to do a variance for things like the square foot that you could use for the occupation, perhaps something on the parking requirement, or maybe the hours of operation, some of those numerical things that you could deviate from. But you wouldn't be able to do uses, you know, additional uses that were otherwise prohibited, like you could under a conditional use permit. So if you went the conditional use permit route, then it would be the end of the reviews and the exploration if someone transferred the property.
What would go with the property at that point?
It would go with the
Say a
property.
bed and breakfast in somebody's place, that would continue with that property, not with the
The
owner.
owner.
Yeah, so the same thing with any home occupation. So we would have to end that practice. I think what I'm going to propose is going with the accessory use, and then consider having just across the board sunsets on them, like 5 years or something. Most of them actually, I think, don't always last those 5 years anyway. And just have a simplified process, and you guys can look at it and see if that works for you. And if it doesn't, then we can go back to the conditional use. But I think we've all appreciated having that option of ending it if the people who started the business leave, and we just don't have all these conditional use permits hanging out with these properties that just pass along with the property. So that's kind of the dividing line on those.
Okay.
So, but again, it's still, you know, for you to look at when it's in its final form and see what you think and adjust it as you want to do.
Were you saying is when you're talking with an accessory, you can't limit the use, though?
So what you would do is you pretty much would lay out, this is what a home occupation is, you know, and the way it is in the draft code, it says there are certain things that cannot be home occupation. I think like one of them is like auto service, things like that. Anything that's going to make noise beyond the property line would not be allowed. But then the draft that we currently had allows you to do a conditional use where you could adjust those things. So let's say you wanted to make noise beyond your property line, then you could go through the conditional use process and get, you know, an okay for your sawmill or whatever. If we went with an accessory use,
You can't change that.
you're not going to be able to change those uses. You know, what you could change would be things like, oh, instead of 525 square feet, you could do, you know, 600 square feet, or, you know, kind of those numerical standards, but not the uses like you could under a conditional use. But the plus side is that you can expire them or sunset them or tie them to the owner, you know, because it's not.
And you can't sunset conditional use permits?
You can't tie them to the owner. They run with the
Not tie
land.
them to the owner, but can you sunset them?
We don't have a revocation for sunset. Yeah, I don't think so.
There's no way to put that into our code?
I think that's kind of the standard why you have the conditional use process, because you can't easily take it away, right? So you're giving people something that goes with the land. Like, let's say we gave someone a conditional use for a warehouse, and we're not going to turn around and say, You've had your warehouse for 10 years, now it's sunset, and you can't have your warehouse that you just built for $250,000 anymore, you know? So I don't know that you want to go down that road where you have sunsetting of
Yeah.
conditional use permits. But again, you're going to have 3-4 months to consider and amend as you go through this process. And I will talk to the borough attorney specifically about this kind of dilemma and see if anything has changed from when that opinion was written, and I think it was in the late 90s, and see if there's anything different. But from what I know, it sounds consistent with how conditional use permits are done and how they're used in general in other places, so.
There's just one more question. If something wouldn't qualify under an accessory, you know, as written, but, you know, it still had support, they could come back possibly and get a conditional use permit, right?
No,
No.
not for a home occupation.
Not for a home occupation, you still
Yeah.
couldn't, okay.
So that's the downside of having the ability to tie it to the owner and to sunset it versus not. So,
Yeah. It's
What power would you-
Pros and cons both ways, yes.
right,
Yeah.
what power would you prefer,
Yeah.
you know, to have?
Okay. I guess we've kind of run into staff comments at this point and zoning questions.
Sorry about that.
What's up with the public outreach efforts at this point?
So, let's see. I ran the proposed schedule past the borough manager, and he is okay with that. As far as having the planning commission go through it January, February, March, and then have the assembly start up at the beginning of April and into May for consideration of that. I'm going to try and get on the agenda for the next assembly meeting and just kind of go through overview of what we've got and what the schedule is and what the plan is for public hearings. The website's ready to go, and it has frequently asked questions. It has the one-page summaries that you guys saw last time. It has online comment submission. It has email addresses. It has physical addresses. It has mailing address. It has a newsletter you can sign up to get occasional updates. And I'm working on those and scheduling releases like every 2 weeks. And each one has like a different focus, and it has the schedule, so if people want to come in for the public hearings. And then I've sat down with a couple of people who are involved in development in town and just kind of gone through an overview of what we're doing and tried to get some early feedback from them, areas of concern, areas that they're supportive of. And then I just sent out those one-page summaries similarly to the realtors in town. And then, so I'm kind of gradually just sort of doing a little bit of outreach to people that I know are knowledgeable about development and activities like that. And then I'll probably, after the holidays, do a little bit more with different groups in town and just do short presentations. And kind of toying with an idea of just doing an open house at some point too, just to, you know, answer questions. So that's kind of where it's at. If I'm missing anything, I think that's pretty broad coverage. And I have the email distribution list from the comprehensive plan process. And so that's who's the initial list of people who are going to get these updates, and they can continue getting them or they can opt out if they want to. So it's probably a couple hundred people.
All right. And just as we're changing our schedule for the next meeting, what is the date and time of our next meeting?
It's January 9th at noon. 9th?
9th at noon? Okay. I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on what that was.
Yeah, so all our meetings for 2018 are scheduled at noon.
Okay.
And that's on that calendar that's posted to the borough's website. Excellent.
I have a handout. It's not, typically I don't know that I have it recurring on the borough's website. I'm not able to do that.
It's there's actually a planning commission page on the borough web page,
Oftentimes when I forget when the meeting is, I go to the borough's website.
and it has the schedule in there.
Yeah. I just since we were changing from 4:30 to noon, I just want to make sure everybody was aware that it's noon. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
And I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
I believe I will be either fishing or visiting family for the next 3 meetings.
I should be here the next meeting. The